Okay, today we are looking at the idea of spiritual reality, and we're going to approach this as that spiritual reality is present. As Paul said, in him we live and move and have our being. And so to think of the kingdom of God, to think of the presence of God, not as a being far off someplace, but as being, with a capital B, that is the source of all that we see, including ourselves. And this presence is everywhere present, omnipresent, equally at the same time. But it's most important to hold the idea that it is present primarily within our own being. It's the very essence of our life. Because the subject of the kingdom of God is prevalent throughout the New Testament. And so it's kind of important to understand what that means. And we'll look at two ideas today. But this is based on an experience or a saying from Jesus. And he said to them, "Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see that the kingdom of God has come with power." So if somebody said to you that you will not die, you will not leave this body before you see the kingdom of God coming with power, how would you think of that? Would you think of it as an external event, or would you think of it as something that happens within you? Because you remember in the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus was asked when the kingdom would come, and he said it doesn't come through observation. You don't say it's going to be low here or low there, for the kingdom of God is within you or in the midst of you. And so that contradicts the notion that the kingdom will come with observation. It comes as something that will be seen objectively. We think of it more as a subjective experience, an inner awakening that we have to that presence. So the kingdom of God is a key theme in the New Testament, yet Jesus did not usher in the kingdom as traditionally understood. What did he mean by this term? Why would he say there are some standing before him that would see the kingdom come in their lifetime? Did he get it wrong? And the answer to that question is no, he did not get it wrong. But the common view of the kingdom of God is something that will come through observation. It will come in a way that we see with our eyes and hear with our ears. And if that is true, it looks like we have two different meanings of the kingdom of God. One from the writers of the Bible, of the New Testament, particularly of the Gospels, and one from Jesus himself. And it doesn't appear that they are compatible. The traditional Christian will say they are. And we'll give a good explanation as to why. But when Jesus said, too, in John, that God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. To say God is spirit would be to say God is a presence. It's not a spirit, but God is spirit. King James said God is a spirit, and that translational error was corrected with God is spirit. And when we think of spirit, we think of something unseen, like the wind that blows. We can see the leaves move, we can see the effects of the wind, but we can't see the breeze itself, we can't see the wind itself. A very good explanation of the nature of spirit. So that presence is centered in every person. Genesis tells us that we were created in the image and after the likeness of God. What does that mean? Does that mean God is human looking? Or does it mean that we are spiritual looking? And I think that it means we are spiritual looking. That which we are at the deepest level, the soul, is spirit. Created in the image and after the likeness of God. And there's a part of all of us that has fallen away from that understanding. We don't see ourselves as children of God in that respect anymore. We've separated ourselves because we feel we're very separate from God. If God is here, where is God? We have not developed the eyes to see and the ears to hear. We're thinking of God in human terms. Somebody said that God created us in his image and after his likeness. We've been trying to return the compliment ever since. We're trying to create a God that looks like us, in other words. And I understand why that has been done, because it's like the little girl said, I need a God with skin on. I need something I can grasp, an idea, a picture I can hold in my mind and understand. A picture that is of a comforting Father. But as we go deeper into our own being, and we discover that inner presence of God, and we can all do this, we see it is a very comforting presence. It is there to inspire us, to guide us, to provide for us in ways that we may not understand. But I think this is the whole power of the message of Jesus. This is why he was so attractive to the common person, because the people that he spoke to were, as I have said, struggling with poverty. And he came with a message that if you learn to tap God as your source, if you learn to understand yourself as an expression of this presence, that it will take care of you like it takes care of the wildflowers and the birds of the air. There's a natural manifestation process that occurs in us when we are tuned into God as our source and God as our provider. That things work out, things have a way of unfolding in our lives that solve the problems that we have in daily life. And I think that the people that heard Jesus speaking loved to hear that, because they had not heard a message like that. And in terms of Thanksgiving, I love the story of when he multiplied the loaves and fishes. Here was a situation where you have 5,000 people and only a little bit of bread and a couple of fish. And what he did is he took those and he gave thanks. And who was he thanking? What was he doing in giving thanks but opening his mind to greater possibilities? He gave thanks that he was always heard, he said. Then he began to pass out the loaves and fishes, and all the people there were fed. And some scholars believe that because he started giving, they saw him sharing, that they began pulling their food out of their from their garments that they would have carried. And I pointed out before that, we live in the desert here. None of us would go out in the desert without some provisions. A desert people know how to do that. And according to the story, they all went out without providing for themselves. Nobody would do that. They may not have wanted to share because they took very little. But when they saw him beginning to give, perhaps it inspired them to give as well. So they were all fed. Or maybe it was just a miracle. We can look at it either way we want to. So judging by this passage I opened with and other similar passages, we surmise that he was not talking about an era ushered in with trumpets and clouds full of angels. Jesus was referring to an inner experience, one's awakening to a spiritual reality. He was saying that some of his audience, not all, would experience a genuine spiritual awakening in their lifetime. And I think that's true with most people. Not everyone makes that conscious breakthrough to knowing God as a living presence. But there are other benefits of just knowing God is present. But not everyone has what we would call a mystical experience, a mystical awakening. It's not that they can't, it's that our attention tends to be taken up with a lot of things other than spiritual development. If you had a scale and you could put all of your thoughts about your material life in one day on one side, and all of your thoughts about spiritual things and spiritual development and your times of quiet and all that on the other side, which do you think would be heavier? I'm pretty sure I know where mine would go. It would flop down on the material side. That's where my thinking is most of the time. And why is that? It's because we have a body that's hungry, needs to be transported. Now it needs to be kept warm. There's all kinds of considerations. Or we have dinners to prepare, we have things to do. Most of our thinking is centered around the body. So, how many of us spend an hour in meditation this morning? Don't raise your hands. Communing with God. You know, it's not something we tend to do. It's because even if you sit down and close your eyes with the intention of praying to your Father in secret, where does your mind often go? You'll say, hey, God, here I am. What are we having for breakfast? I need to get gas for the car. It's a little chilly in this room. You'll think of a million things, and that's just the first 10 seconds. It's amazing what the mind does. We're not disciplined often to be still and know, to bring our awareness to this now moment. And that's why an experience like this is good, because it reminds us that there is a higher level, a higher way to experience things. But the kingdom is so misunderstood because our thinking is so grounded in the material side of our life. That's where so much of our thinking is. And so when we're thinking this way, we would naturally think of anything that would have relevance, like the kingdom of God, would be something I could see, something I could touch, something I could participate in. It doesn't make a lot of sense to just sit down in the quiet and attempt to have an inner experience that I don't even know what that is. So he's saying there's some of you that are standing here today that will make that breakthrough. Most of you may not, but you'll still be okay. But it's always there, and that's what when we talk about spiritual reality, we're talking not about something that will come, but something that's here. That's why I like the two parables, one of the woman with the 10 coins that lost one, and then one with the shepherd that had 99 sheep and lost one. Let's just focus on the woman. She lost a coin. She wasn't saying to herself, let's see, I wonder if I had 9 or 10. She knew she had 10, and she lost one. And so what did she do? She totally cleaned out her house. She turned the house upside down so she could find that one coin she lost. If her state of mind was, I think I had 10, but maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just 9. Do you think she would have the same commitment to finding that lost coin? And see, that's the difference. If you hold this picture of yourself, that you're already complete, that you are already one with God, that the kingdom of God is truly within you, you have all 10 coins. You actually own the relationship with God. But if you say, I think my soul is evolving, I don't know that I'm worthy of experiencing the kingdom of God, I'm working on it, doing my best, trying to live a good life, you'll treat that in a very different way. If you sit down with your eyes closed, opening yourself to something you know you already own, and if you don't know it in your heart, you at least know it in your head. I am already one with God. I don't have to earn the right to be a child of God. I already am that. I own that. You enter your time of quiet in a receptive mode. It's just like if the sun's shining outside, and I don't know why those drapes are closed, but they shouldn't be. But we know the sun is shining out there, and if we open those drapes, it comes right in. We don't have to do anything to beg or beseech or do anything different, just open the drapes. Because in that sense, we own those rays of sun. They're ours for the taking. Or we step outside in the sun. There's no negotiation, no need to prove anything, no need to prove how good we are. We already have that relationship. But if we didn't have that, if we didn't know, and maybe we just had to live in darkness, we thought we had to live in darkness for some reason, that there was some price on the sun, that the sun wouldn't shine for us for whatever reason we haven't been good enough. We don't even think that way. We own it. So that's the attitude. It's not like I wonder if I have this relationship with God, this relationship of oneness, or is it something I have to work on, that I have to be persistent? You see, the prodigal son, no matter how far you stray into the far country, you still have a home. That never goes away. And that's another thing that I think is very beautiful about, if we look at many of the things Jesus said, that's what he was saying. He said, you can't damage the relationship you have with God. We have come to believe that we can. And so we don't really own it. We think we have to re-earn it or earn it altogether. And the experience I grew up in, or that I was trained in, is the soul is not complete. We're evolving. And someday we'll be complete and we'll be enlightened. You know, the woman looking for her 10th coin, when was she enlightened? Was she enlightened after she found the coin, or was she enlightened prior to it? She knew she had the coin. That's enlightenment. So it's not about achieving. It's about acting on what you know is true at the deepest level. That word enlightenment is highly misunderstood. All of you, I believe, are enlightened beings. You know that there is a higher truth. There is a presence that is here, accessible to you, or you wouldn't expose yourself to this teaching on a regular basis. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you have received it. The woman knew. She didn't just believe, she knew she already had 10 coins. She was enlightened, and she acted in her life like an enlightened person. And what does an enlightened person act like? They act like they already own the thing they're looking for. And that's a whole shift of thought, because I understand the idea of soul evolution, why some people embrace that. Because I don't feel complete. The woman could have said, I don't feel complete because I'm missing a coin. But she didn't behave that way. She behaved like an enlightened soul. That's mine and I'm going to get it. I'm going to retrieve it. And that's the difference in acquisition and recovery. She recovered what she already owned. She didn't acquire it. Acquiring would be to go out and earn another coin. She recovered what she already owned. Her knowing that she owned it was enlightenment. So Jesus is saying, put your mind at the end. Put your mind on the finished place, the kingdom of God that is within you. Don't see it as when the disciples or the Pharisees ask, when will the kingdom come? When will I get my 10th coin? Or maybe I don't have 10 coins. When will I get 10 coins? The woman answered her own question. That question is, I'm going to find it. It's here someplace. I think the older we all get, we spend half our lives looking for something we lost. So we ought to be able to identify quite well with the woman. I was looking for something the other day that I had just had. I just had it. My 10th coin. And I swear I looked every place. And then like 2 days later, I opened a little box and the thing was in there exactly where I remember leaving it after I found it. Isn't that funny how that works? But I could have easily, after I looked in every place it should have been, concluded that maybe I didn't really have that thing. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. I really like the one of the lost pencil, where if I would do some woodwork, I'd use a pencil and I'd stick it behind my ear and lose it, and look for it, and then go get another pencil and sharpen it. Take that pencil and put it behind your ear, and that's when you find the first one. It's pretty amazing. So when the pencil's behind your ear, you grow comfortable with lack. You grow so comfortable you don't even know it's there. But you do own it. You do have it. But I'm always amazed at how things so easily slip away, and we spend half our life looking for these things. But the more I study Jesus' use of the kingdom of God, the more certain I am that he was referring to omnipresent spiritual reality, the creative life force that underlies and animates all living forms. This creative process is already in place, fully functioning, and known to those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. As the Gospel of Thomas says, and the Gospel of Thomas is not in the Bible. It's an external gospel that was discovered in 1945. The kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. I love that idea. I love that statement because I believe it's absolutely true. And again, I've used the illustration of the stereogram. You know what that is? Where you look at this picture, it's all squiggly lines. And you let your eyes rest, and pretty soon a great white shark or some image will come. But some people can't do that, can't allow their eyes to see differently. And it takes me quite a while to look at those things, but I've learned to do it. It's like looking at your finger in front of you and you see two fingers. You take that same type of viewing. It's a relaxed state. You don't look directly at the thing, but whoever came up with that stereogram thing is pretty ingenious. But when your eyes unfocus or focus on what is not normally seen with the regular viewing, whatever the object is comes into perfect focus. It's amazing, and it's like a three-dimensional thing that is jumps out at you. And once you see it, you can't help but see it. But that's, to me, how the kingdom of God is. It is a presence, a dimension that we live in whom we live and move and have our being all the time, but we don't see it because we're focused on everything else. And one of the ways to start focusing on it is say, it's here, and I give thanks that my eyes are now open, my spiritual eyes, not our physical eyes. It's our intuitive eyes, open to this dimension. And as we open ourselves to it, we find it is the source of greater good that unfolds in whatever way we may need it. But the term kingdom of God can trigger misleading preconceptions, stirring images of the old man in the sky finally coming down to take control of a dysfunctional earth. As a teacher, Jesus saw his primary mission as one of bearing witness to the true nature of the omnipresent spiritual reality. And like most of you, this is the image of God I grew up with, the old man in the sky. And that worked for quite a while, but it makes sense up to a point. And then we have to rethink that, especially in light of what Jesus said. An awareness of this spiritual dimension can heal, can bring order where there is chaos, can manifest as plenty where there is lack. In other words, understanding the true nature of God can establish conditions in one's earthly experience as they are in this spiritual reality. That is, on earth, your personal life as it is in heaven, the unseen spiritual reality. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. I think this is one of the most profound things that we find in terms of how we are to approach. But just think from this perspective. Think in terms of thanksgiving. We give thanks before we see the answer, before we see the actual solution. We give thanks that it's now unfolding. We're opening our minds. It's like I give thanks that I find that lost coin, whatever that is. I give thanks for an understanding that God is present now. God is working through me. God is guiding me at this moment. God is healing this problem in my body. God is harmonizing this relationship that I'm involved in. It's a little bit rocky. God is giving me bread rather than a stone, a fish rather than a serpent. Greater good is now unfolding through me. I give thanks for it even before I see it. Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. If you'd like to help support this ministry, just click the donate card at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Your financial support means a lot to us. We have many subjects in our video lineup, so feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. To subscribe to this channel, simply click our logo. Thanks again for your interest in Independent Unity, and have a wonderful week.